Mastering passive play is an art form that very few players get right. It's not about hiding in a corner and waiting to clutch. It's about supporting and utilizing your teammates to make your slower and more deliberate approach to the round more effective. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what it means to be passive on both CT and T side, and why it is essential to have the ability to play passive if you are trying to improve at Counter-Strike like me.
More action on ropz in mid. Shiro looking to test him, challenge him. You can't get past Robin.
When talking about the passive playstyle on CT, your mind immediately goes to two roles. The first and most obvious role is the anchor. So the anchor's role isn't to get all the kills, but to hold their bomb site and buy time with utility and positioning. This therefore gives their teammates more freedom to take space elsewhere and to rotate in to help. The second role is the AWPer. While their job is to open up the round, keep moving and rotating in order to find the next pick, their next pick doesn't have to come from an aggressive reposition or play. It can come from taking control of predictable angles, adding an extra layer of respect for the enemy, and limiting their movements or confidence. So when do you choose to play passively? Playing passive in the early round is a great way to keep safe and prepared for rushes and pistols. By taking a deeper angle, you help deny the enemies an early pick and give your team time to react. For the mid to late round, however, this is where most teams fall apart and where being passive may be the answer. For example, if you have a numbers advantage, getting your team to fall back into a more passive setup forces the enemy into your traps and helps secure the round. However, if your team keeps fighting for space and the round flips back into the enemy's favor. And as mentioned before, playing passive isn't about just hiding in a corner and waiting for the enemy to execute into you. It's still about finding ways to be effective while minimizing your risk of dying. So to do this, you could shoulder peek or jump peek for information without committing your life, set up crossfires with your teammates to create a blender of death for your enemies, play a bait and switch setup with your teammate to ensure at worst the refrag, or risk it all and gamble stack a site to reclaim the advantage. Ultimately, mastering passive play on CT makes you a nuisance because you're taking away the thing every T player wants, a 1v1 fight. For the T side, passive play falls into three categories. The first being roles. The most common role is the support, the backbone of any good attack. They aren't the first ones in, but they enable their team with powerful utility and well-timed backup. A good support knows the important smoke lineups, perfect flashes, and backs up their teammates rather than taking control of the rounds themselves. The most famous passive role, and the least effective in pugs, is the lurker. Their job is to gain information on the other side of the map and wait for the perfect timing to attack an unexpected enemy or disrupt their rotations. A good lurker is comfortable to play on their own, take information quietly, share with the rest of the team, and are great at taking duels. But a great lurker is someone who applies pressure to their side of the map without needing to do anything. They are always expected, and therefore the CT makes decisions on the expectation of pressure rather than the pressure itself. So when does the passive playstyle have impact on the T side? In the early round, you assist your team in taking space and gathering information across the map, rather than throwing your body on the line for it. In the mid round, you assist your teammates with flashes or use smokes and incendiaries to isolate fights or deny information, forcing the CTs into more disadvantages. You can also quieten across the map to pressure twitchy CTs into making mistakes or reckless pushes. And in the late round, it's your time to shine. You help execute into the site, trade effectively as you scale, and control the post plant to ensure the round. But I know some of you degenerates are going to be like, but why can't I just rush in? Well, we have the passive playstyle because it works. Rushing around on the T side can work, but controlling the tempo of the round has even more impact. The biggest takeaway is that proactive doesn't just mean aggressive, because the best version of passive is also proactive. I'm learning that a hybrid approach is the best way to play, especially in CS2, where we need to be the peaker, not the peaky. You can be passive in the early round to gather information and then become aggressive in the mid round to reclaim a disadvantage, or vice versa, aggressive in the early round to grab the advantage and then passive in the mid to late round to gather information and group up with your team. However, when you're playing passive in pugs, you've got to be prepared for the downsides. You can be seen as the baiter rather than the trader. You could slow the game down and then watch your teammate fly out ramp thinking they're the next coming of Donk, and you will likely deal with teammates who don't understand the fundamentals of CS. And so for us to have the biggest impact we can on our games, the key is to learn both approaches. And you can still learn those watching demos of FPL or good players. But make sure you switch your POV to the anchors and supports, not the top fragger on the server. And if you want to just watch the greatest player in that position of all time, you can go and check out ropz. And talking about the greatest of all time, let's go see how my week got on. This week was a sad finish to what was a good return to form for Team BREW. On Monday, we played an ESEA match, which we lost 13-11.
That's right.
Drops. They want. I don't love Keyte.
Yes!
Nice!
That guy was right in front of us had Keyte, and I was like, oh.
Yes, Mom.
And we played a UKIC game, which we got outclassed in 13-3.
This is the game to prove that we can do whatever we want, but it all comes down to who hits heads better. And they indefinitely hit heads better.
On Tuesday, we played a nail-biter of a UKIC upper playoffs decider, which ended in a loss, but an almost 1v5 clutch.
On backside clock. He just peeked there.
No.
Garage on.
No!
Unlucky.
Nice try.
And on Wednesday, we played and lost our worst game of the ESEA season. Not to mention it was a 5v4. Unlucky boys.
Go into a dark hole.
With this loss meaning we missed the ESEA playoffs and only UKIC lower playoffs left to go, our team had a conversation and decided as to what we're going to do for next season. And in this conversation, one of our players has stepped down from the team, meaning that we are actively seeking a replacement for the next season. This is a sad finish, but is not the end. We want to come back stronger as a team, and I want to continue to show improvement and reach my goals. But on a positive note, I'm up ELO again. Right, okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Peace.